Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening sa inyong lahat. This is my way of solving and to identify kung HEA ba yung gagamitin natin or VEA when it comes to finding the area by integration or area between two curves. So in this case, I have visualization here. Sa HEA, kung napapansin nyo, we have horizontal lines. And sa VEA naman, we have vertical lines. So that is the yung meaning ng H and V natin dito sa acronym natin. So as you can see, we have these red lines or equations, tawag natin yan, mga ganun. We have these red na boundaries. That will be our given equation para sa solve natin na problem. And as you can see, kung gagamit tayo ng HEA, if one end ng horizontal line natin or one end ng line natin is touching the leftmost boundary or the lower boundary, and yung the other end of the line is touching the rightmost boundary or the upper boundary of the So as you can see, kung i-focus natin yung mata natin dito sa this line na lang, since mahaba siya, I will choose a better color na lang. Pink na lang siguro. Ayun, kita naman yata siya. So, as you can see, this pink na line is yung first end niya or the other end is touching this boundary na to, which is a parabola. And yung the other end of the line niya is touching this part of the boundary, which is just a line. So, dyan yung natin. In that case, HEA yung gagamitin natin. Whereas dito sa VEA, if let's focus this line lang. As you can see, isang end ng vertical line natin or isang end ng line na ginawa natin is touching this shape or this boundary, which is a circle. And the other part of the the other part of sa line or the other end part of the line is touching the second boundary natin, which is an exponential curve. So if you draw multiple vertical lines here, every time yung other end ng isa is nagtatouch sa isang boundary and the other one or the other end will touch the other boundary. So that will be your parang basis kung paano siya i-differentiate whether HEA or VEA yung gagamitin nyo. So this is just a visualization kung paano mo siya ma-identify if you are going to draw or sketch the graph. And as you can see, I also included the formulas kung HEA ang gagamitin nyo or VEA. And I want you to look at this formula muna. Since HEA yung gagamitin natin, your lower and upper limits sa integral should be right here. Since dyan siya nag-intersect or dyan yung parang enclosure ng equation of lines nyo or dyan yung enclosure na hanapin yung area, therefore, your integral or the limits of your integral should be the value of their intersecting points or their coordinates of the intersecting points. So I chose these variables, y lower limit, y upper limit, is because sa HEA, since you already have your left boundary and your right boundary, you only need to find the limits by knowing where they intersect or where they close or saan siya mag-enclose. So in this case, we need the y value here and the y value here. Whereas, kung dito naman sa VEA, we tend to use, or not tend to use, but we always use the x value para sa lower and upper limit natin sa integral. Since as you can see, we have one intersecting point here, and we need to find the x value since yung diagram natin dito shows that we have an upper boundary and a lower boundary. So we only need to find the limit kung saan siya mag-end. So dito yan siya sa intersecting point. And since sa drawing na to or sa diagram na to states that dito yung lower limit niya, which is the y-axis. So y-axis means x equals 0. So our lower limit in this case should be 0. And I also forgot to mention, di ko nalagay yung formula sa L na to. Pero yung L natin, that should be, I type ko lang dito, our L should equals to the upper limit or upper boundary, I mean, minus lower boundary. What do I mean by that? So sa upper boundary is when we're talking about the Cartesian plane. Yung upper boundary natin is where kung sa x pa tayo yung nakafocus, kung sa x tayo nakafocus, yung upper boundary meaning yung right boundary, kung saan yung positive side. So in this case, dito yung upper boundary natin or right boundary natin since nasa right side siya. Whereas yung kabilang boundary natin which is nasa left, that will be our lower boundary. And dito naman sa VEA, upper boundary natin will be this circle right here. And yung lower boundary natin will be this exponential curve. So makikita nyo yan siya. Nakadepende na yan kung manotice mo siya sa sketch or hindi. Pero I have some ways to identify if sino yung magiging upper and lower boundaries mo dyan and kung sino yung magiging upper and lower limits mo dyan. So, I need to emphasize lang din na iba yung upper and lower limits sa upper/right and lower/left boundaries. Again, ulitin ko lang para hindi siya confusing. Iba yung upper/lower limits sa upper/lower boundaries. And I will explain that later na lang. So, this is a visualization kung ano yung HEA and VEA. And yeah. Okay, so I have this example here. This is actually not my example. Kinuha ko lang siya sa quiz natin nung nag-calculus quiz tayo since, to be honest, hindi ko in-expect yung ganito yung given. But at the same time, we have our own parang ways in order to find the answer. So we have here given two equations and hindi given kung HEA or VEA yung gagawin natin. So every time, in my case, every time na nagsosolve ako ng mga ganito, I always write down yung newly found given ko and the formula that I want to use in order to find the unknown, which is the area. So in this case, I can see na meron akong x squared. Change na color. Meron akong x squared. And since I don't want to deal with squares and square root, and nakikita ko rin na negative yung y, and ayoko rin mag-deal. Okay lang naman na mag-deal ng negative values. But in this case, we can simplify this to y equals x squared. So what I did is, tinranspose ko lang yung negative y, binalik ko sa kabila para meron akong y equals x squared. So we have our first equation na given para sa natin, sa given. So ayun. Sa second equation naman, since gusto ko na ihiwalay ko yung y and x para makakahanap ako ng equations na patok para sa natin, sa formula natin, nakikita ko dito na I have negative y, or I can see na meron akong I can transpose this negative 2 sa kabila and I can transpose the positive x sa kabila. So I can say na meron akong y is equals to negative 2. Transpose will be positive 2. Positive x transposed will become negative x. So I have my equations na with respect to y. As you can see, meron siyang function of x dito, or in this case just y. Meron akong y is equals to x squared and y is equals to 2 minus x. And since I have y here as my sa equation, dyan ko na malalaman na yung gagamitin ko dito is VEA y. Bakit VEA? And as you can see, y nga. And what does y mean? Diba when we say like y is, when we say sa Cartesian plane, kung i-visualize natin yung y is gaano siya kababa or kataas, diba? And that will be our basis dito sa natin sa formula. So ayun lang siya. Then, if we recall, formula ng VEA is x natin, x limit, lower limit, tas x upper limit, L, dx, since with respect to x dapat to siya kasi yung y natin siya, function of x. So, dx dapat yan siya. So, that is the first step. Ilagay ko dito. First step. Now, what about the second step? Sa second step, sorry, nagsuscroll down ako para makita natin ng maayos ba. May space tayo sa Word. So, sa second step, dito ko hinahanap agad. Since we have an incomplete information para sa formula natin, we still need to find our limits. Then natin makukuha, or sa step 2 natin makukuha yung hinahanap natin na limits. I will write this down. So, sa limits, how to find the limits? Since we have here two equations, both of them equates to y, and we know that y is equals to y, no doubt. So, substitute these values dito sa y's natin. So, we have here x squared. X squared is equals to another y, 2 minus x. 2 minus x. And just by looking at this, we have a quadratic equation. Paano yung naging quadratic equation? Let's equate this to 0. X squared. Transpose these. So, yung negative x natin maging positive x. And yung positive down natin maging negative 2. And all that there's left there is 0. So, we have our quadratic equation. And in order to solve for the quadratic equation, basic na yan. Punta ka na sa calculator mo. Merong caltech niyan na mabilisan. Punta ka sa mode, equations, 3 I think. And type mo lang yung coefficients ng mo dyan, ng quadratic equation. In this case, we have 1, 1, negative 2. And you should receive x is equals to 1 and x is equals to negative 2. And with that information right there, sorry, na-cut off pala siya. And with that information, pwede natin malagyan to ng ng name sa variable. So we have x, and sino sa kanila yung mas mababa? Automatic si negative 2. So that will be our lower limit, and 1 will be our upper limit. Now you have your upper and lower limits. Perfect. Now, ano pang kulang sa natin sa formula? We still need to find our length. And how do you find length? Lagay natin dito. In order to find our length, we need to find the upper and lower boundary. So, formula of L, upper boundary minus lower. I'll just type na lang na up B minus low B. Yan. So, sa upper and lower boundary, dito na siya maging tricky since meron siyang specific rule in order to find, hindi naman siya specific, but if you learn or if you understand kung paano, then palagi mo na siyang mga gamit-gamit. Like, mabilis na siya talaga siyang intindihin. And i-explain na rin actually. So, what I do is, syempre, kunin ulit natin yung mga formulas natin dito. Y equals x squared na nabuo natin. Ayan. And I would let or assign a value to my variable x is equal to, kung ano yung limits natin, that should be our value para sa x in order to find the upper and lower boundary. So in this case, we have 1 and negative 2 as our upper and lower limits. Your x, in order to find sino yung upper and lower variable, you need to substitute some value na nasa gitna or nasa kalagitnaan ng dalawang limits mo. So let x is equals to the value, or eto siya, negative 2 should be less than, x should be less than 1. So our value of x should be in between negative 2 and negative 1. So pwede maging ano yan siya, negative 1, pwede maging 0, pwede maging 0.5, pwede maging negative 0.167, mga ganun. So on, so forth. Basta nasa gitna siya ng limits natin. So in this case, just to simplify, we can assign x is equals to 0. So kunin natin yung formulas natin. Ibaba natin sila ulit. Ibaba natin sila. Y is equals to x squared. As substitute 0, we get 0. And the other one, y is equals to 2 minus x. Substitute 0, we get 2. Y. So in this case, sino sa tingin nyo yung nasa upper boundary or lower boundary natin? Basic na siya i-identify, di ba? Since we have common sense actually. So I label ko na lang through green and red. So we have here our let's call this actually y sub 1, y sub 2. No. Y sub 1, y sub 2. Perfect. So we have here y sub 1 and y sub 2. Label this y sub 1 our, dito ko lang nababa. Let's label y sub 1 as our lower boundary. And let's label y sub 2 as our upper boundary. Okay, perfect. So we have this information now. Yung y sub 1 natin should be our lower boundary, and y sub 2 will be our upper boundary. And let me expand my space. Okay, perfect. So let's move on. So number 4. What are we going to do with those information? Since tingnan natin yung formulas natin kung ano yung goal natin, we need to find L in order to find the area para sa space in between. So yung L, ano ulit yung L natin? Upper boundary minus lower boundary. And we just found out that our lower boundary is y sub 1 and upper boundary is y sub 2. So this should be y sub 2 minus y sub 1 based on the information found right here. Okay, so if we substitute y sub 2 on the formula, we have parenthesis 2 minus x minus y sub 1 in the formula is x squared equals 2 minus x times x squared, that is going to be x minus negative x squared. So that will be our L. And we have our L na. We can substitute that to our formula. So, step 5 na tayo. Mabilisan na to. Step 5. Punta ka na sa area. Always write the formula when solving before ka mag-substitute para hindi ka malito. So, we have the area. Area is equal to the integral with x as our lower limit, which is negative 2. Upper limit natin is 1. Yung L natin is, wait lang, let me expand the drawing space. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, ano yung L natin? substitute L, 2 minus x squared, parenthesis, dx. Now, why is parenthesis important in this scenario? This is a polynomial. And din yan siya ay parenthesis since integrals counts as a, para siyang multiplication. So, dapat naka-distribute niya yung integral dyan and yung differential mo dito sa mo. So, dapat yan siya naka-parenthesis. And, in the next step, basic integral lang to siya, parang algebra na lang to siya. So, integrate mo muna lahat, magiging 2x minus 1/2 x squared minus 1/3 x cubed. Naka-parenthesis siya, of course. All with the limits of 1, -2 to 1. So, what you're going to do there is just substitute your limits, solve for the area, and ayun na lang, speedrun ko na lang to para sa inyo. Don't forget about the positive, negative times negative, positive, negative times negative, positive, negative times positive is negative. Simplify. So this simplifies to 9/2. And that will be our final answer. Let's put a box around it since it is an important one. So, ayun yung step-by-step solving without sketching the graph to us. So, you can sketch the graph actually, but it takes time. Time-consuming siya. Ayun nga, it takes time. And you need to plot some points. In order to plot some points, you need to substitute sa formula or sa equation. In my case, hindi ko na yan ginagawa. Yung ginagawa ko lang is, yes, nag-substitute ako in order to know directly kung sino yung magiging upper and lower boundary natin, and kung ano yung magiging limits natin for our pag-integrate. So I have my answer, 9/2 or 4.5. So I can send you yung picture na to or yung image na to para with the graph para ma-visualize nyo kung bakit ganun yung nakuha kong area and ano yung itsura ng graph para makita nyo kung bakit siya nag-work, and ayun nga, para ma-visualize. So, ayun lang siya. VEA lang to siya. So, I will type here. Lagay ko lang VEA.